Okay, we are live. I think I got my voice back. There we go. Previous video, I was getting my voice back. Now I have my voice back a little bit more, still a little like deeper than normal. But here for another quick hitter. I gotta shout out a couple things. So shout out to my t-shirt. Yeah, you're gonna see this is my office workspace. Shout out to my t-shirt for PTAF. It's with Tennessee State University. I was very honored to be considered to even just talk with a group of people. Like, I'm very grateful. That was a long time ago. Ooh, that might have been like 2 years ago, maybe. But I came here to answer two DMs. I'm going to actually click on them now. I have not read them, I haven't looked at them. So it's going to be like my naked truth, like first ones. I just knew from a little preview that says something about relationships, and it looks like two people, a guy and a girl, had the same um, had the same questions, or maybe it's about the same questions. But I see when we click on the whole message, and then what I'll do is I'll send this video over to these two people, thanking them for sending me their DMs. I'm trying to do a better job with answering all the DMs, posting them over. And the other shout out, because I should be staying on topic, is my hair. I People that know me, like, I am not really good in the weave department because I'm just kind of like, spending money and then I'm gonna take it out in 2 days. But I've been challenged by coworkers to keep this in for 3 weeks, wash it and everything. But my goal is to we have a lot of we have a lot of a lot of things to do for work. And I kind of want to get back into routine of like working out, stuff like that. I've been traveling, got back officially last week. So um getting to the groove, worked out already. It lasted. This is literally the same bun from my workout. Like, just put it up, and it's human hair, just for my liking. Not as itchy and all that stuff. That's what we're going for. It's been going really well. I'm using like some rose water and stuff. If you guys care, I'll link it later or another time. But shout out to Bree Loves Hair. She's done my braids before. She's done my hair before. So this was great. I had a lot of weird requests like, "Oh, I just want the least amount of density." Like, so a lot of it's just my hair, and then she's braiding into it, and it's a feed-in method I'm learning. Great, very patient, and my hair doesn't hurt, doesn't itch. My scalp, my edges are still there. So yeah, what we are about to be 3 minutes in. What we really came here for is these DMs. So I gotta figure out the LinkedIn wise. This is from Instagram. So thank you guys for your DMs and thank you for your patience. I have to go way back for other DMs I've missed, but I know I can group these two together. So obviously, comment below if you want me to say your name or if you want to keep yourself anonymous. I'm going to keep you anonymous until you tell me otherwise, just because I don't want to disrespect anybody. And sometimes people just want to ask just because they want someone who can answer. So, first question, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to group it together. Well, let's see. Let's go with the first question. Oh, once you read it, you can't unread it, huh? Oh, shoot. I got to come back to that one. Um, Where was the other one that I just had? So long, so sorry. I might not be able to group them together. So here's the question. Oh, they gave me two questions. Oh gosh, let's see. First question is, we're at the 4 minute mark. Let's do a better job. What does your in season versus off season typically look like? So your in season versus off season. So every season is different. I'm entering into year 5, and I will say every season is different. I can say like sometimes in season I will have I still have I basically say the same caseload, but when we're in season, it all depends on if we're in town or out of town. And then if we're out of town, then it's like, are we in a different market, different time zone, all that stuff. So we'll have like a practice day. This I think works for a lot of other sports. Practice day, game day, travel day, on the road practice day, on the road game day, recovery day, building close. That's literally like 7 scenarios I just pointed out. I'm not going to try to make this a long video because I have other videos on my live that you guys can check out that talks about in season versus out of season. and even some podcasts I've done. And so I will say, if we're talking about just in season and we're in network or in town, that will like be like practice day. We'll set up the day, maybe show up at work at 8, maybe about so. May have meetings, may not. A lot of things are impromptu, so it could be something as simple as like you may need meet up with a couple coworkers or other staff members. You can visualize, like, say whatever sport it is, you'll have coaches, you'll have medical staff, you'll have um, may or may not have physicians involved, but usually it's not every single day. And then you have the obviously the players, and then other supporting personnel you can think of that works that you could see in the college setting. May not be as so much in the high school setting, but college setting, whether it's media or um, sports psychologist or any of those things. So you may have an impromptu meeting, or you may have something you just need to talk with that person, and then you start about your day usually with some type of treatment with the player, and or that player may have like movement things or things in a weight room. Your typical flow, as if like if you're in college or just with another sport. It could be soccer, you go play at soccer, football. They may have meetings in the morning that you just dictate, whether that's college, and it could be like student meetings because for school or whatever, or in our case could be meetings because of whomever they need to meet with. And we just be flexible. The name of the game is being flexible no matter what sport you're with. So then we move on to our treatments and meetings that we talked that I was just briefly mentioning, and then we'll have practice. And literally, as if I worked football or worked any other sport, any of us work any other sport, like you just watch and make sure you are ready for God forbid if anything happens. And that could be as simple as like, oh, wipe the floor because there's sweat on the court. Or if I was working football, I'd be like, oh, a player needs water, giving them water. So that's kind of like everything surrounds around practice, and maybe like just optimizing them, getting ready for practice. And then that will flow into, say, if it's a game day, they may have meetings in the morning or a shoot around, walk through, any of those things. And based on the time of the day, depends on how you work, and you work backwards. Whether that's you needing to meet with staff, needing to meet with a player, work with the player, work. You're not doing this by yourself. There's other staff. That means could be physical therapists, athletic trainers. There's other um, strength coaches, like any of that stuff. You're just making sure the players optimize and have whatever they need, whether they have an injury or not. It's we don't do we're not going to do based on like if someone has an injury or not an injury. It's going to be based on what that player needs, what is best for that player. Um, and so, with that being said, um, that's kind of how we structure a day. And then there will be a flow with like if they're at the arena, this is home, and you could apply this to away now. Home and away, like arena, get to the arena at a certain time. If it's home, then the player is arriving to the arena when they need to arrive. Um, to allow them enough time to get changed, get dressed, and flow into their day. And their day would include like doing stuff in the weight room, doing stuff with treatment or in the training room. Um, and it could have media involved. So that's another thing. Obviously, in the college level, you see that. NFL, you see that. MLB, all that stuff. MLS, and so that's kind of how the flow is. And we just whatever it is, taping, whatever the player needs, you just try to make sure they're ready to go. And even if they talk to a sports psychologist that day or it's another day, whatever that is, just structured to give the player the best environment is basically long story short. So that would be like typical in season. We travel a lot, as a lot of people know. We have 82 in season games. Now we have in season tournaments, which is going to be really fun. Like I'm a huge NBA fan, so I'm really excited to see how that looks, how that works. It's our first year, everybody's first year. So I am like really excited to see what does it look like. The championship is going to be held in Las Vegas. So whichever two teams are selected, that's going to be awesome to experience that. But it adds a lot more travel, and it may add a little bit more TV time. And obviously, depends on how our previous season was, it can determine sometimes like how many more televised games and stuff. So you have to keep in mind as a clinician, what are things to the public eye. So, for example, as you're talking with a player on the side, maybe you're covering your mouth. we during the game are not supposed to be like celebrating and being loud anyway, but something to keep in mind whether you are um whether it's a televised game or not, just being professional. And I think that's where I have continued to work on through the years. Like we used to have to wear masks because of COVID and the protocols. So it was easier for me to be like celebrate underneath my mask and be all excited because I'm a huge NBA fan, I say. And I am a huge fan of our team and our players. But I know for my job, it's ideal to make sure I have a clear delineation of like, this is my job, focus on what needs to be done. God forbid there's an injury or another team needs something, the other team needs something, their athletic trainer needs something, the making sure I'm talking with the paramedics and the medical staff, whether we're at home or away, that happens before the game. And that will also be happening again this season, talking with the medical staff and the other team, talking with paramedics, making sure they understand, God forbid, if anything, any event happens on the court, what are we responding to? Is it a fist in the air? Do you guys do like cross arms? Like whatever you guys do on that emergency medicine side, that clear communication. Um, and then after the game, if we are home, then we just go home, unless we're traveling to another market right after the home game. And that's where it gets a little interesting. We're just trying to coordinate. Doesn't mean there has to be injuries, but just coordinate. Like if a player wants treatment after the game, coordinate the ideal scenario where you get as much efficient treatment done to make sure everybody's has time to shower. You may, as a medical staff, may not be able to shower. I know it sounds gross, but it is what it is. You serve first, and then you just see if we just get everybody on the plane. Like at the end of the day, get everybody on the plane, make sure we're timely working on that. Hopefully, you get to grab some food, um, whether it's there at the arena or there when you get on the plane, vice versa. However, you need to coordinate that. And then we're there wherever city or place we're located in. Maybe change the time zones, maybe not. So it's all that's what it's like. Every season's different. So I can't always say, oh, we always go to Denver right after. It's all different. Even if we are away, have an away game, we may leave after the game. We may not. It all depends on the season, or it depends on like just travel coordination and whatever that team's preference is. And then we'll go to the next city or next state, depending on the time zone. And it could be a back to back game. It could be not a back to back game. It could be a practice next day. It could be a recovery day the next day. And then you just coordinate and you work with your staff to know what are the time frames you need to do for that to make sure you're available for the players if they need anything. And then, say for medical staff or performance staff, we may have our own meetings and get that situated. We have documentation. It doesn't matter what entity. There's usually medical staff. I could work in a clinic. There's going to be some paperwork we need to do. So making sure we are, whether it's maintenance or God forbid there's an injury, like we just document. And that's something as just being a physical therapist, athletic trainer, that's something that's a given. You want to just document. So not off season. Whew, that was 13 minutes in. Now off season, um, my off season has definitely been different every year. I would say more so recently because it also depends on your caseload, meaning who do you work with? Do they have camps? Do they not have camps? But what I will say is about the same is every team will go through draft workouts. So draft workouts will be usually before the draft, maybe ensuring just a good flow and whatever team however they do their draft workouts. So that whether it be some teams will just do court workouts and that's it. Some will actually do medical assessments or have the physician look at or do a physical with that player. Some people may do force plate testing, and yeah, force plate testing, movement assessments, and that could include a number of things. Whether you guys believe in like FRC, FRA stuff, like just general movement, FMS, functional movement screen, or you believe in SFMA, if that helps, or PRI or DNS, any of those things to probably assess how a player moves, getting a good player history. So you can imagine all that stuff happens, and that is going on most likely until like the draft, which the NBA draft is usually around, I could be saying this wrong, like the third Thursday of June. And so basically you're just preparing whatever you need to do, whatever's asked of you. Because every entity, every place is gonna be different. I will never speak specifics on like, oh, this player, da 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 da. So there is those who may watch my video, watching now, going to watch it. I will never release, oh, a certain player, this person's name, they're doing this, they're doing that, they came in town. I will never, ever do that. This is about for students or people who want to get into this realm. It's never going to be about spilling tea or TMZ sports section. That's not what this channel is for. So once we get an idea of like what all stakeholders want for a player or players that they're interested in, we just make sure everyone's on the same page, and we're a service to the players that come in and our current roster. So you just juggle that, you make that work and figure that out. So say if some people can tell by like listening or watching Woj or looking at ESPN, all players are not required to stay. A lot of players are not required, actually. No players required to stay in market. So they may be with family, they may be traveling, maybe vacationing, whatever the case may be, and you just make sure whether you visit that player or coordinating good medical care and performance stuff, what they need. That's not just on one person. That's just going to be like our all our team. So say if I were in a college setting, we have some people may have a um, athletic trainer, physical therapist, strength coach, sports psychologist, whatever it is. You're just making sure all that team is surrounding that player, not necessarily seeing that player every day, because if they're out of market, that's not something like, oh, we're gonna have everybody go. But you could understand like if that player is not going to be in market, you just want to have surround supporting staff, whatever that is, whatever that looks like for that player, to ensure they feel supported and know like they're cared for, because it's not just something you care for the player as a player, what they can do. It's like you care for the player as a person and make sure they have everything they need and work with the staff that helps you get supplies or that support that is needed, like whatever that includes, as you can imagine. So then basically with off season, that kind of is how it goes. And then we'll do a lot of continuing ed. So I think I put it a little bit on my other pages, maybe a little bit of continuing ed I've done. I put a little bit on my LinkedIn, put a little bit on other pages as well. And that could be something that's focused, like individually focused, depending on how your program or club is. It may be as a staff where you're like, oh, as a staff, we're going to do this. And so whatever that includes, you're just fitting that in and ensuring you're working, tying up loose ends. So there could be some stuff, some skills you're like, oh, I really want to work on my manual skills. Like work on those things. That's what you want to use the off season for. Work on those things, because your off season is not really your off season, but it's kind of for the players, even though they're getting work in, because this is when they're actually building that foundation. So whatever we can do to improve on ourselves, to keep working on our foundation as we pour into the players and even staff and ourselves as the season starts, preseason starts, et cetera, et cetera. And then ensuring that we have the best coordination relationships with our supporting staff. And that could be strength coaches, that could be other physical therapists, athletic trainers, it could be nearby clinicians, say if we need to use them, like it's a hand therapist, specialist, our team physicians, whatever it is, making sure like you're keeping those relationships alive. And even if it's something like, hi, how are you doing? Just checking in, hope you're doing well. Simple as that, like it's something I like to do in the off season as well. So with all being said, that's basically what the in-season, off-season looks like. Check out the other videos that I have on live as well, just in case. And then sometimes I'll do like vlogs and I'll post them. I need to do a better job. I have all that footage that I haven't posted yet or edited, so I need to work on that. So that is my goal. As these DMs keep piling on through, I'm trying to work through those vlogs, because I know people are interested in that. Again, you will not see me posting like, you're not going to see me posting like, oh, look who I'm with, and that stuff. Like you may see the hotel I'm in, like stuff like that, or just a typical day, or me breaking down like how you need to coordinate working out and sleep and travel and that stuff, just to help, again, those who are not in sports medicine, or who are in sports medicine or not in the professional setting, or who are in other entities. But by no means am I trying to spill or divulge any competitive information to other places and entities or whatever. So you will not get that here, never. Last question is, also, how do you handle being married while working in sports? Good question. I get this question a lot with like other podcasts and stuff too, and even students I talk with. So whether they're in undergrad, PT programs or athletic training programs, this is where we get to the meats and the potatoes even though we're 20 minutes in. Meats and potatoes at the 20 minutes in. And this is when we want to talk about the divorce rate is very high. Okay, I think that's a shocker for no one. Divorce rate is very high in professional sports, and I'm not talking just NBA. I'm not just talking NFL. It's high also with residency and fellowship. So if you look at stats, those who are like in medical school or physicians, or in my case, I was a physical therapist and I was a resident and I was a fellow as well. Um, the divorce rate's really high. So I think it's like as simple as like 50% of those marriages fail, like something crazy. It could be higher now for all I know. Excuse me. Um, but with that being said, that's where you need to know your partner before you even get married and before you know you want to get into this. So I will say my husband and I were dating when I was in my PT program. When I first told him, PT meaning physical therapy, for those who are not in sports medicine, physical therapy program, that I was interested in working in pro sports, he was very supportive, but also like getting to know him, like he's not a clingy person. I'm not a clingy person. We're both individuals. Um, like when I say individuals, meaning like we like our space, not saying away from each other, but meaning like we're not like, oh, where are you going? What are you doing? Oh, don't do that without me. Yeah, there's some FOMO. And disclaimer, I just found out what FOMO stands for. Like maybe like a couple months is how embarrassing, how out of touch with life and these new abbreviations, terms or whatever. But with that being said, we give each other space. So when I first told him when we were dating, he was very supportive and he was like, whatever I have to do. And that was like, if that includes me working extra hours to allow you to take classes to become certified in this and that. So when I graduated, I worked at a trauma center. And at the trauma center, I was also working, so crazy, as a head athletic trainer as well at a high school. So I was working two jobs, but I also knew I wanted to be certified in dry needling. It was an elective in our physical therapy program, but because we weren't physical therapists yet, we couldn't say that we were certified because we got the hours, but then we were still students when we were learning it and gaining those hours. So stuff like that, he was very like, oh, he was very supportive, like my biggest cheerleader. So even where it came to like, oh, I think I want to apply to Duke for the residency, he was like, let's do it. So I think that's huge, like being with someone who's very supportive of you and not like, oh, you sure you want to do that? Oh, you're gonna be around a lot of men. Oh, like you might make more money than me. Like if you're my opinion, I wouldn't want to be with somebody who's very scared of me making more money than them. Because I feel like it's not about the money in the way of like I'm not that person to be like, oh, I make more money than you, so I can do this and this, and you can't tell me what to do with our finances. That's not a good relationship, in my opinion. You can only speak for yourself. But when I wanted to do Duke and we ended up saying like, oh, I have to move to North Carolina now, he was very like, I've never moved anywhere. He's never flown anywhere either. And he was like, let's do it. And I was like, okay, let's do it. And at that point, we were already engaged. We got married. Well, still like married into the fact of like he knew what I still wanted. Like he knew that meant like we might hold off on kids. And he was like, oh, I'm cool with that because I don't want to have kids right now. So it was like we were on the same page. And basically, I'm getting to a point where be on the same page because that's going to play a huge role with like who you end up with. Because I talk to people who are single in pro sports. I've talked to people who are dating. I've talked to people who are an undergrad, who are working college, who want to work in this realm, and that could include NFL, whatever. Biggest thing is know your significant other, not just because like, oh, they're understanding. Da, da, da. Make sure you know and understand like they got something going for themselves as well. And I say that because then they won't be wrapped up in you like, oh, you're never home. Oh, you're in a different time zone and I gotta go to bed by this time. And you may be getting to that next city, different time zone, like 3 in the morning, and you may not have gotten a chance to talk with them, or because they're working till 5, you may start treatments at 4:30, then the time to be speak with them is kind of like messed up because then your game may end at 9:30. You got to check in with players. You may get onto the plane until maybe 10:30. They're already sleeping. It's all that stuff that you're trying to coordinate, and you have to make sure you have an understanding with that person. They have stuff going for themselves, and they're very ambitious themselves, or they know how to stay in the back, like in the background. And I don't mean like back burner. I mean like no, like their supportive roles and different things. So for example, my husband was my supportive role until I got here. Very like, okay, what money do I need to bring to the table while you are doing your residency fellowship? Because residency fellowship, which I had in other videos, and I know there's when I was like in Target talking, and I was like, you do not get paid well. That's how a residency fellowship. You could be a medical student, you do not get paid well. That's another thing that could put a strain on the relationship in the financial aspect. You may be 75% of the actual asking salary, or the salary of the nearby city that you work in. So it's something that like my husband was very supportive in that. And then when I got this job, he was just like very supportive. But then it got to the point where his license would not transfer. That was like, oof, I was like, yo. But I've talked to some people about it already. Like we had to be creative. So creative in the standpoint of like, okay, when can you come out here to see me? Because um, I think it was like easier for him to come to where I lived and to instead of like the cities that we're going to, just because we may be there for 24 hours and we are gone. So that may not like work out for him, or it didn't work out for him. So we had to do that for like 10 months or a whole season basically. And then he was able to move his license, was able to transfer over. So that was good. So he was able to work and stuff as well. That helped. And then the gears got shifted. Basically we got to the point where now I would like to make more money, and thank God for the opportunity. I was able to make more money, then allow him to do other things that he wanted to do, just like the roles have reversed, where it's like residency fellowship wasn't making that much money. My first year working here didn't make much money. Not a surprise. Another thing I try to tell people, like, don't expect I'm working the NFL, I'm working the NBA, I'm gonna be making all this money. Like, that's not what this is about. That may not happen. It may or may not, just depending on how many years you put in that organization, and just a lot of different factors, like just saying. And that everybody's situation is different. So fast forward to then, thank God I get a raise. And that allows me to then allow him to say, oh, I want to do this business. I want to start this. And it was very relieving for me that it wasn't like because I was working extra hours, because no matter what, like athletic training, physical therapy, this realm, you're going to be traveling, doing a lot of hours. I was used to that. That was not anything, but I was grateful that I could at least in return, like be like, yeah, like we have a little bit of wiggle room. Go ahead and do this and this. Oh, I need to go visit my mom. He can go do that. Oh, I need to go I would like to go to this conference, and we were able to do that. And it wasn't like we were never like my money, his money. So I think that's another thing, depending on like how your relationships are. If you're like into that, like we're not that. We're not that. We're very like when I spend something is in the same account, like whatever, we may have that trust in each other of like, you're not going to go blow the money, or you're not going to go swipe the credit card all crazy and all that stuff. That's something that when we were dating, engaged, lived together, all that stuff, married, and juggling me and residency fellowship and that low pay. And then my first year, we got like a better understanding of finances. And then I improved in my financial literacy because it's on me too. That helped. When it comes to like visiting and stuff, it got to the point where what because obviously I'm still traveling a lot for work, so I think that's where it's a lot more travel in my opinion than it is for NFL like football stuff. I think it's almost close to MLB, even though you may stay for a couple days in a place. Like we may stay a couple days, but it's not that like common. Like we're usually 24 hours, maybe 48, like, and there may be like one trip or one city or state, no, two states, like Cali and maybe New York. We may stay a total of 4 days, but it's like Cali has how many teams, people, and so depending on it's all depending on like our NBA schedule. So we don't choose our schedule, so that's why I say every season's different. Um, Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get the 30-minute mark. But long story short, we tried to make it as creative as possible where it's like, okay, he asked for time off or he can get time off or something's on the weekend and be like, oh, I'm gonna come out and see you there. And we try to do it. It's not like it's a set like, oh, every Friday we do we can't do that. Some couples they could do like every Friday we go out to eat, every Thursday we have Netflix and chill. Like we can't do that just because it could be a Tuesday we're out of town and then it's like the following Friday we're in town for a game and then it's like I could be in town for a game and I still have to be at the facility. We're at the facility all day and then I may come home, maybe not. I may go straight to the gym to go work out or I may something may popped up with work and I have to do something at work or with a player and I had to go straight to the arena. And then you can imagine arena treatment, all that stuff, game, and then after the game, and then it's like it boof, like it's 11:30 at night, and it's just like you didn't even see your spouse. So like that stuff happens too, even when you're in town. So my husband is very trusting of me, very trusting of my husband. We're not very like, oh, got dibs on this person. What do you do when it's 11:30 at night? I see based on your phone, like we're not like that. So I think that plays a huge role. And then a day of like how we handle marriage, or for those that I've talked to that are like dating people. I think that's. I was telling somebody this morning. I went to breakfast with somebody, and I was telling them this morning. I think that's why sometimes some people who are like famous or who are like in the industry of like even entertainment, because this is actually a sports entertainment business or a space. But even so, I do feel like why some try to stay within that realm if they didn't know the person before they got here, or if they didn't know what they're getting into. So like, I think that plays a that's something to keep in mind when you are say dating somebody before you get into this space. It's like NFL, like you may be in a town for like a week and that's also hard. So I'm not trying to say that's easy, but say if that spouse is a stay-at-home mom or a wife that doesn't have to work. I think like what players say if they're like with somebody who they don't have to work or it's on them that they are a lot more flexible with their job, it's great because then they can meet you out there. But usually it's the male that's working in this space and it's the female that's doing that. So what I like that has been improving, and not just me, but I've talked to other females in this space, where if the male is available to like go to games or travel out and stuff, like there's even care packages for our husbands. So I think I like that because it's usually the other way around, but it's been great just how the NBA has been progressive and my organization is progressive and talking to other organizations like able to do that. So we, as the working female, and our spouse is also working. Um, they also feel like I feel like, oh, you care about my spouse as well. Like that's huge. Not all teams, none of this stuff is required, but it's just more of like a lot. Usually, it's the male that's working in the space, and then they may have care packages for the wife. And so I'm very grateful that I'm the wife that's working, and my husband is working, and there's a care package for them. So it kind of gives some type of like inclusion. And then say if obviously anybody can go on NBA.com and see our season, but I really like the space of our life and life development. Maybe I'm saying it wrong. Player and life development. Um, that that coworker in that space, the leader in that space, will also put out a schedule like, hey, the team is traveling here and here. So obviously I travel with the team. So they have an idea of like, oh, I travel here and here. So it's like a visual instead of me saying, baby, I'm gonna be in Phoenix. It's almost like they may get an email or they may get like a message, hey, reminder guys, like the team is leaving, da da da, this, that, and the third. And they may do events and stuff while like we're traveling and stuff. So that's good. But other than that, like it's just making it as creative as you can. For us, it's awesome because then when it comes to off season, I'm very big on travel anyway. So even though it could be off season, like I beginning of this video I talked about the off season, I may travel to do player camps or visits or whatever it is, like whatever we have to do. But I will try to make time to see family as much as I can. And a lot of times I'm asking family or husband is like, hey, meet me here. So a lot of times we'll do that because like my mom and my parents my parents are not living in the same areas like my brother and all that, I just say, hey, can we all gather here? And so like, even I'll be like, hey, baby, can you come out here? And we can all do dinner. Or we can all like do, even if I'm only there for a couple of days, like that's just to me a blessing, warms my heart that I can even have the chance to do that. Because that includes family. I know we talked, somebody asked about marriage and relationships, but also that includes family because I miss birthdays, I miss weddings. I have lost I guess you want to say friendships. Like I know Kobe talked about it a lot when he was in this realm, and I'm not Kobe. I'm not trying to say I'm Kobe. Um, but I have mad respect for him, even though he's not with us. That you're there's stuff that out of my control, my scheduling is my job. But also I know that people are like, oh, you missed my baby shower. Oh, you couldn't go to my wedding, whatever. And unfortunately, that happens. Or I may have to cancel on my husband for a date night because something pops up at work, or I could be in the middle of dinner, have to get up and go. Player may need something. That's something that you have to, that spouse, or even if you're just hanging out with your friends, they have to understand. Like that's just this life. That's the life I chose. Just because I want to look back and make the most of it. And if I lose friends because of it, that's something that I'm willing to live with. Because I know my husband knew what he got into before he even proposed to me. He knew before we got married. He knew what I wanted, and he never was like, "Oh, that's a crazy goal." NBA, what are you talking about? Like, you ain't gonna make it to the NBA. Like, my husband was never like that. He's my biggest cheerleader, and I want to be the best for him, even if I'm like on the go and I'm not always in town. I live out of a suitcase. So I think that answers all the questions. We're at the 36, about to be 37 mark. Thank you if you made it this far. Please like and share. And I'm gonna go ahead and send this over to all the people that send me DMs. In that sense, I'm gonna be keep answering DMs. Um, Again, my goal is to make them 15 minutes, but this was like an action packed, like three part question or three questions. So I'm gonna go ahead and send that. Thank you for your message. Go ahead and send the other stuff over. Be on the lookout for other videos, even if they're just random ones, because I'm good for the randomness. That's how I am. I love random stuff. But we're in a way of we're in our preseason, like getting some stuff situated, get stuff going. So my goal moving forward is popping up videos, or it could be podcasts that I've already done or going to do. Keep doing some lives, pull out my vlogs that I said I was going to pull out from like thinking 3 years ago. Get on that, and what I said I was going to do: add hair videos, workout videos. We're now at this point. I think I'm going to try to drop 10 pounds just because I feel like I'm not doing a show, but I need to like work on that a little bit. Loose. When I say tighten up, like it's just like getting my diet situated and getting into a workout routine. So it's been very helpful. I'm very grateful, and I think we'll talk about other stuff as they come up, but as at this point, I need to answer the DMs. So thank you guys for your DMs, and have a great day. Stay blessed and have a great weekend. Okay, bye.